What is holistic care, and are you truly getting the holistic care that you've been advertised? I'm Dr. Jeff Cumro, and over the past 15 years, I have studied biomechanics and functional medicine and functional neurology and bioenergetics, how the body makes energy, and all these different things. And ultimately, when we look at those things in a whole, they have one thing in common. So the big thing on these things is when we start looking at the more advanced, techniques or the specialties or whatever you want to call them, it's looking at things from a broader perspective, right? We're not just looking at one thing and how that affects the body, and that is the only thing. When we look at siloed medical care, it tends to get more and more and more focused, right? It tends to get more and more narrow. And the danger in this that I see, and this doesn't mean that all practitioners are like this. You should not take that as that, because I'm not saying that. But the danger in this is I see recommendations made by certain specialists, and they're looking at one little thing. They're saying, if you take this, it is going to help this. And they're totally right in saying that. That one thing can help this. But they're not looking at it from a global perspective, right? They're not looking at it from this one thing and how this affects everything else. They're only looking at how this is going to affect this. And that is a very focused, very narrow, I don't want to say it's dangerous, but in some cases it can be, right? It's a narrow focus on how things are going to be affected. And an example of this would be alcohol, right? So what are the recommendations on alcohol? They're saying, go ahead and have a couple of drinks a week, have one drink a day, whatever the recommendation is right now by the Heart Association, because alcohol can take a little bit of stress off the heart. But alcohol is toxic to the brain and the nerves, right? It has a negative impact on the gut. And all of those things can have an impact on the heart too, right? As you start to lose some of that nervous system tissue, the insulation around that can throw off your heart rate. That can lead to, increased heart rate. It can lead to arrhythmias, different things like that, depending on what part of the brain is affected. When we look at the gut can also increase the heart, because as our gut starts to malfunction, it increases the inflammation in our bodies globally. So it's not just the gut that gets inflamed, it's everything else that gets inflamed. And one of the most dangerous things for the heart is inflammation, right? So we've got to look at things from a broad perspective. And that's really what chiropractic care is. It's really what, holistic care is. And holistic care has been turned into it's more of a marketing term now than anything, right? Holistic care. What does that mean? Like, are the people actually understanding what that means? And this is the question you have to understand, because in many cases it's buyer beware in today's society. And that doesn't just include healthcare, that includes everything. We have to be aware of what we're buying, because there's nobody out there really watching for us. So the holistic care is looking at how everything in the body works together and what we can do to build the healthiest person possible. And when we look at chiropractic care is ultimately working to improve the communication between the brain and the body. When we have proper movement, we have proper signals sent from the body up to the brain, better signals from the brain down to the body. And when we get that, we get better output, right? Our body knows what to do. In most cases, we don't have to tell our body what to do, right? We don't have to tell our body how to breathe. We don't tell our body how to heal. We don't have to tell our body to rest. We don't have to tell it any of these things. But when it gets improper signals sent back and forth, this can confuse it. That stress is something that is, it's very difficult. It just muddles the communication, right? That stress gives you the things that's just going to keep you alive. And that's all it focuses on, is keeping you alive at the expense of everything else, right? Like I said, we've got to avoid those narrow things, those things that bring us down to one point, and open up our focus to everything else. And that's ultimately what we're trying to do with chiropractic care. And when we can mix in the functional medicine and the functional neurology and how your body's making energy and all these different things along with this, it gives us a broader perspective yet, and we can figure out better ways to not only figure out why you are where you currently are, but to help you get where you want to go. So if you have questions on this, as always, reach out to me. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your attention. I know that they are some of your most valuable resources, and I appreciate you spending some of that with me. So I hope that you have a phenomenal day, and I will catch you on next week's video.